And what areas of the country do you think are the best opportunities for the multifamily space? You mentioned before the coastal major metropolitan areas for commercial.
Right.
What about the multifamily?
Well, in multifamily, it really comes down to job growth, particularly in the short run, since new supply is not a threat. I mean, traditionally in real estate, we have markets with less growth but no new supply, and markets with terrific demographic and job growth but a lot of new supply threat. Well, we find ourselves in a window now where there's not a lot of new supply threat anywhere. And so the markets where we're going to see strong demographic and job growth ought to see some pretty strong rental comeback pretty soon. And that's traditionally the Sun Belt. And so we would be happy to invest in the Sun Belt. And again, as I was saying earlier, in some smaller markets, one of the issues in apartments and in other property types is frequently institutional capital moves as a pack. And we understand why, and that's just what it is. And right now the pack is very focused on the major markets for institutional apartment buyers. And so that's why I think that might create some pricing opportunity if you have the ability and the capital that will permit you to seek out some smaller markets. And so we're pretty keen to do that too.
It's interesting.
How about on either of the southern coasts, the California? We read so much about what's happening in California, especially from a foreclosure standpoint on individual properties, and on the other side, in Florida,
So
where
far.
there's lots of that.
Yeah, those are two areas where I think you still have to be pretty careful. In South Florida, I think Florida had its first year of negative migration last year.
Right.
I don't think that's structural, but the point is it's pretty rough in the short run. And some of the statistics around, particularly Miami and the condo development business, are absolutely staggering. I mean, about 20 or 25,000 units that were built and unsold, and that market was heavily dependent upon speculation for a very long time.
Right.
And so it was really sort of a trading market. And so this is right for certain folks and not right for other folks, but some folks will say, well, it used to be about 500 a foot, now it's 100 a foot, it's cheap. That's not our way. I mean, we need a more fundamental thesis.
Well, thank you, Scott, so much for joining us. Our next week's guest is Kristen Santarian of the Kairos Society, and she's going to tell us about an entrepreneurial society for students. Thank you for being on our show. It's great.
Thanks for having
Thank
me.
you, Pat.
Thank you, Tammy.
Thank you.
Go that way, Scott.
I was a little worried.